Dear all, in our previous lecture, we had seen about the different stages in design process. So we mentioned that there are basically 6 steps or stages in design process which we saw in detail during our last lecture. But even though it is being mentioned as 6 stages, it is not mandatory that every organization or every company should follow the 6 steps as it is. There might be differences in the stages and it ranges from company to company, and most often you may see a detailed design process like this which consists of 12 steps. So these 12 steps are combined as 6 steps such that 2 or 3 stages will be combined into a single stage. So this is how you see that there are 6 basic steps which can again be expanded into the 12 steps which is known as the detailed design process. So we are mentioning each of the finite or the smallest steps in detail. So that is why it is mentioned as 12 steps, that is the detailed design process. So coming to today's lecture, today we will be seeing about what the customer needs are and how to identify the customer needs. How do you identify the customer requirements or needs? Customer need is very important because the customer need forms the first step during the design process. So as I mentioned in our previous lectures, the central point of the design process is the customer. Without the customer requirement, there is no need for a product and therefore there is no need for any design. So a need arises or a product arises only because there is a need for that product from the customer. So identifying what are the customer requirements is very important in the design process as well as after the stages of the design process. So let us see how we can identify the customer needs. There are various methods. The greatest focus on identifying the customer needs due to increasing competition. So there are multiple products that are available in the market, maybe for the same category of product. Say for example a toothpaste, you can see that there are a lot of varieties that are available in the market. What is the need for so much of variety of products in the market? It is only because there is a requirement from the customer. So customer requirements or the customer likes are not the same. It ranges from customer to customer. A product that one customer likes may not be of interest to another customer. So that is why so many number of products under the same category is available in the market. So only if there is a need or a requirement from the customer, that product will be there in the market. So we should identify who are the customers for that product and under what category do they come. What does the customer want from that product? So that is why we say that if we are identifying the gap that is existing in the market, then we can find a new product. For example, if there are multiple number of products, say as I mentioned earlier, multiple varieties of toothpastes. If we want to produce a new toothpaste or if you want to release a new toothpaste into the market, then first of all we should identify what are the existing products that are available in the market and what are the deficiencies or the customer dislikes in each of them. So if we are able to identify some of the properties like that which the customer where the customer requirement is not satisfied, then surely we can study it further and take it as an input to produce a product. So it is very important to understand what a customer actually wants. How can a customer be satisfied? What are the different needs that must be addressed to make a customer satisfied? Now, we all know who a customer is. Customer is a person who purchases a product or a service. So this is a very old definition, a general definition, and nowadays it has been changed. Now we can see that there are two types of customers, that is internal customer and external customer. An external customer is external to the organization who is using the actual product, whereas the internal customer represents the employees that are working at each stage in the production of the product. So employees who are workers working at one stage of the process will be customers to the previous stage, or the employers of the previous stage who are working on the previous stage of the process. So they are internal customers. So that is how the definition of customer has changed over the years. Customers can also be end users. That means either they can be using the product, or they can promote the product to someone else. So in both ways we can address these people as customers. And new products are being developed by consulting with the customers and the people influencing them. So whenever you see a new product, there will be a requirement from the customer side due to which that product is manufactured. And at every stage in the production of the product, from design to manufacturing, testing, and finally reaching the customer, each stage there has to be an interaction with the customer to correctly identify or to ensure that all the customer requirements are being met. Suppose we don't interact with the customer, we make a product and finally release it to the market. Then after the customer reaches or buys the product, he may not find it to be very useful, or he may not be very satisfied with the product. So what happens is the customers will not be ready to buy that product. So as a result, the product will go as a wastage. So there is a wastage of time, wastage of money, resources, everything. So in order to prevent that, at each stage it is better to consult with the customer, know what is interest or what are the changes to be incorporated in the product, and then make the changes accordingly in the process itself. Otherwise, there will be a wastage of resources, time, and money. So identifying the customer requirements is actually a 5-step process. The steps are being shown here. That is, the first step comprises of gathering the raw data from customers. Then after that, the second step is interpreting the raw data in terms of customer needs. Third step is organizing the needs into hierarchy. Fourth is establishing the relative importance of the needs. And finally, reflect on the results and the process. So you will see each of these stages or steps in detail. And you can see here there are certain documents or byproducts that are produced in between the stages. There is a data template which is made in between the first and second stages, need statements which is made between second and third, hierarchical list between the third and fourth stages, and importance survey, that is a document created between the fourth and the fifth stage. So we will see each of these stages now. So the first step is gathering the raw data from the customers. So there are several methods by which we can gather the raw data from the customers. There can be interviews, focus groups, observations, and many other methods of data collection from the customer. So what do you mean by this raw data? The customer, when he gives the requirement for a product, you should always understand that his requirements are not very clear. He may have only a very vague idea or not very clear idea about how the final product should be. He will only say the final product should have these things, such things, and such properties. It is a duty of the design engineer and others who are involved in the design process to correctly understand the data from the customer, the raw data given by the customer, and convert it into the requirements which can be understood. So raw data is generally a data which is not processed, that is as it is taken from the customer. So these are the different methods listed here. Some of the methods: interviews, focus groups, observations, etc. Interviews, it is a one-on-one interview with the customer which lasts for about 1 or 2 hours, and during that time the interviewer will try to obtain maximum information from the customer. The advantages: it is quick and inexpensive. Focus groups actually consists of around 8 to 12 customers, and it is another general type of an interview. One interviewer will be there. In interviews there is one interviewer and one customer, whereas in focus groups there will be 1 or 2 interviewers and multiple customers. There is a difference. Then there may be discussion between the customers and along with the interviewers, and it may give rise to new ideas. Then in observation method, the customers use the product, and the design engineers actually watch the customer use the product in real time and find out what are the difficulties or the changes that the customer wants in that product, and tries to accommodate that in the product. So since that testing is conducted at the customer premises and it is in actual conditions, it shows the product deficiencies. So that is the advantage. The product deficiencies or the changes that are to be made in the product is shown readily, so that the design engineer can make these changes accordingly and release the product to the market. Now here is a comparison of the effectiveness of focus groups and interviews. You can see that the focus groups are more efficient. The percentage of needs identified by the focus groups are more when compared with one-on-one interviews. Now, the different methods of gathering information, it is just mentioned some more in detail so that you can understand here. Interviews, as I mentioned, it is a one-on-one meeting with the customer, and it is conducted by the marketing or sales representatives. So usually before starting to design the product, the marketing or sales representatives will be visiting the customer, and they will be conducting a one-on-one interview and identify what are the different requirements that the customer actually wants from the product. And they identify the problem in the sense, problem here represents the requirement. They are meeting at their environment. It means they are going to the customer at the customer's place and meeting with them. And these are some of the questions that are being asked, like what do you like or dislike about the current products, why do you purchase the product, improvements need on the product, etc. So for existing products, if some changes have to be made, these are the questions to be asked to the customers. If it is an entirely new product, then you should identify the gap that is existing with the current products by making use of these questions. So if you see what the customers say they want, that is the requirement of the customers. So customers say their requirements to the marketing or the sales representatives, but it is difficult to identify what the customers actually want. So this shows here that only this intersecting area or this portion is what actually is gathered as information during the customer requirement collection, because customers say their requirement, but they might not be very clear about the requirements so that they mean something else, and those who are going to collect the requirements may gather only this much relevant information. So there is a gap between what is actually meant by the customer and what the customers actually say. So we should clearly identify what the customers want by different methods so that we can finally release a product accordingly in the market. Only then the product can be successful. So some of the things which the marketing and sales people or those who are going to interview the customers should be aware of. Just in general, just read through. These are the different points to be noted while doing a customer interview. We should work to their schedule. Then get attached to things you don't want to hear. Suppose you are going as a representative of your company. The customer has been using your product. He is not at all satisfied. So he may not speak very politely with you. He may say your product is not at all good. It is a very waste product. Don't release such products in the market and such things. So be prepared to hear such things also from the customer. Then undergo politeness training. Start with behavior, not feedback. Ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions means questions with which you can gather as much information as possible. Listen to the customer very carefully. Don't interfere with him. Completely listen to what he has to talk. And encourage his interactions, but don't influence his decisions. So all these are the different points. Ask for introductions, write your notes. So it is very important to take down the notes. So what all the customer says should be noted down so that it can be referred in the future. So customer may say a lot of things. If we don't note it down, we may eventually forget all those things. So it is important to note this down. So all these are some of the points to be kept in mind while doing a customer interview. So the second phase in which we are gathering, during the first step, we are gathering the raw data from the customers. In the second phase of this step, we will need to select the customers to interview. So which are the categories of customers which we need to select that we should see? The method used here is extreme users. Extreme users means the customers who are using the product to the maximum extent. Customers using the product at maximum capability. And they are dependent on the performance of the product in some way. So if the product is a very good performing product, then there will be a lot of customers who are using the product. If it is not a good product, if the performance is low, then only a very few customers will be using that product. Then often able to articulate their emerging needs, means the emerging needs in the sense, if we are continuously using a product, then we will be in a position to identify what are the further needs required in that product or further additional needs needed to make that product better. So such users, extreme users, if we are interviewing such users, we will be able to identify what are the additional features that will be needed to make the product more successful. Then frustrated with the inadequacies of other products. So a customer who is using one particular product to the maximum may have used other similar products and found those products to be incapable. So that is why the customer has switched to using this particular product. So if you are asking them, we are clearly we can understand about the inadequacies or the inabilities of other products. Then the products using the product in unusual way. So there are different methods in which a customer can use a product. He might have used the product in a very good manner and also might have used the product in a very rough manner. So both can be, the information regarding both of these situations can be identified. modified product with new features. So that means the customer can suggest new features by which we can modify the product with additional capabilities. Then another method is a leapfrog competitors, in which they can gain advantage over competitive products. Here is an example that is mentioned, that is the company P&G, that is Procter and Gamble. They have a product known as Swiffer. Swiffer is a product used for cleaning wood paneling on walls. So a focus group has been formed for the product, that is Swiffer focus group. And the Swiffer focus groups conducted the focus group meetings and found that the extreme users, that is the users who are using that product at the maximum capability, the extreme users cleaned their wood wall paneling with the Swiffer product. So for one particular area, that is wood wall paneling, was identified as the one area that was mostly cleaned using the Swiffer product by most of the customers. So the focus group, when they conducted the interview or the focus group process, they found that this particular product is better when used for wood wall paneling, cleaning their wood wall paneling. So that is how we can identify the uses of such products by conducting such interviews. Then as I mentioned earlier, there are certain interview tips to be followed during conducting the interview. Prepared ahead of time. You should be prepared while doing the interview. Questions should be asked like why to use the product, then how do you use the product, what do you like about this product, and so much. The latent needs means listen for needs not currently fulfilled by any product. So what are the needs that are not fulfilled by any product? That forms an area where we can concentrate to produce a new product. So interview we discussed, that is a one-on-one interview where one interviewer will be going to the customer's place and he will be interviewing one customer at a time and gathering the information as much as possible from him. The second method of gathering information is focus groups. As we mentioned earlier in this example, focus group, that is Procter and Gamble, product name is Swiffer, Swiffer focus group. So focus group is actually another form of interview. We can say that it is an expanded interview with 8 to 12 customers who are involved with an interviewer. So there will be one interviewer who will be simultaneously interviewing 8 to 12 customers. And the interviewer will be asking different questions to the customer regarding the product, and every interview is recorded to listen to the customer's response. So the customer's response is recorded. And finally, all the customers are interviewed until he understands the customer's response or the customer's requirement. So focus group actually is an expanded form of interview. So just a graphical representation of focus groups. There will be one interviewer and different customers. They will be sitting together and they will be discussing and asking questions regarding the customer. The interviewer will be asking questions to each of these customers, and the end product is, or the outcome is, to gather as much as information from the customer as possible. Third method of gathering information is by customer complaints. So whenever we purchase a product, usually there will be a customer complaint section or a section where we can approach to tell our complaints. Some toll-free numbers will be given, or sometimes a website will be given for the product where we can register our complaint. So customer complaints, it is a method of identifying the information that whether the customer likes the product or not. If a large number of complaints are coming from a particular product or for a particular brand or a model number, it means that it is not meeting the customer requirements properly. That is why the complaint is coming. So complaints can be made through phone, letters, emails, etc. And third-party internet websites, they also act as source of customer complaints. Then another way is customer rating. Whenever you use a product on the internet, sometimes you may be asked to rate the product. So giving comments, all these are different methods by which we can know whether there is a complaint from the customer or whether the customer is completely happy with the product. Then warranty data. So whenever a product is being sold, most of the products, they have a warranty associated with it. So warranty means either the part or a group of parts which does not function in that product will be replaced with a new one or will be repaired. That is the warranty. So whenever a product is under warranty and it becomes defective, then it can be the part which is not functioning in that product can be replaced. So warranty data, again, it is also an indication of how the customer is liking the product. As we discussed in the previous case, if a large number of warranty is being claimed for a particular product or a particular model, then it means that that product is defective. So that is why the customer is trying to claim the warranty. If the number of warranty claims are less, it means the product is successful and it is meeting the customer requirements. So warranty data is an indication of customer satisfaction. Then surveys is also a method of gathering information. Whenever there is a survey being circulated among the customers, it is intended to gather information, can either identifying the major problems in the product or whether the product is successful in the market or not, or what are the additional features that the customer desires in that new product, etc. So such information can be gathered very effectively through conducting surveys. So there are large number of surveys being conducted, like market survey, product survey, satisfaction survey. Many surveys are being conducted. After we gather the information, gather the raw data, we need to document the customer interactions. Document in the sense we need to keep it as a recordical document for further uses, for future references. So it can be either handwritten notes, it can be audio recording, video recording, or still photographs. So all these are different methods by which we can document or we can record how we are interacting with the customer. So whenever, suppose we are doing the customer interview, we can record the interview process so that we can refer this interview session in the future. Similarly, for focus groups and such methods, we can do a recording. We can take handwritten notes, we can do audio recording, we can take photographs. So all these are different methods by which we can document customer interaction. And then we make a customer data template. So customer data template actually is a document which consists of or which tells you about the customer data. So this is a template, or this is actually a format of a data template. With examples it is shown. Category is being mentioned, such as the typical uses, the typical use for the product as mentioned by the customer. This is the customer statement, what the customer actually told. And interpret needed means what can be inferred from the statement, or what do you understand from this statement that the customer has told. So typical uses that the customer has mentioned, the example given here is about a screwdriver. I drive screws to install electric devices like outlets and switch covers. So his usage, or the customer's usage for a screwdriver, is to install electric devices. He is using the screwdriver to install screws in means electrical devices like outlets and switch covers. So if you are designing a screwdriver, that screwdriver should be useful for or should be used for screws on electrical devices. That is the interpreting that we are doing. What the customer likes about the product, this is his statement. I like the pistol grip. So this type of design the customer likes. So it means the meaning of the statement is that the unit is comfortable to grip, or if we are designing the screwdriver, we should design the unit such that it is comfortable and easy to grip. What the customer dislikes is that I want to lock it so that I can use it with a dead battery. So currently if the customer is using a similar product, it means if the battery, it is actually a battery operated screwdriver, you can see in the picture that is shown here. If the battery does not work or the battery charge is down, with the current product he is not able to use the product. He is not able to tighten the screws. So there is a gap, or there is a requirement, additional requirement, that I want to lock it so that I can use it with a dead battery. So even if the battery charge is down, I should be able to use it. That is a requirement. So that is what he dislikes about the current product which he is using. So from that we can analyze what his need is. User can apply torque manually to drive the screw. That is, user can manually use it as a manual screwdriver, or he should be able to use it as a manual screwdriver also when there is no battery charge. Suggestions: it would be nice if it could punch a pilot hole. It means there is an additional requirement from the customer that it should be usable as a screwdriver as well as to make a hole. So usually making holes, it is not done by the screwdriver, but it would be nice if it can be used to make a hole also. So that is a suggestion from the customer. So it should be understood that the unit should be able to create a hole also. So these are now the requirements from the customer. Customer has stated the raw data. This is the raw data, and this is the actual interpretation or what we have understood from the raw data. So these are the requirements. This exclamation mark shows that these are not the actual or the primary requirements that the customer has. These are the requirements that are additional. That is why an exclamation mark is shown here as a representation. So interpreting raw data is the second step. First step was to gather raw data from the customers. Second step is to interpret raw data. So the customer has stated the raw data, and now we need to get the raw data as a meaningful data. So that is meant by writing the problem need statement or problem statement. So the problem statement actually is converting raw data into meaningful terms. Now this is a template of how, or it is shown how we can write good need statements. Need statement means what is the requirement statement, how we can write it meaningfully. Under the category, we should use what and not how. The customer statement is put protective shields around battery contacts. So here the customer is actually looking for a battery level indicator which shows the battery charge level. He is looking for a battery level indicator. So the customer requirement is put protective shields around battery contacts. Now what is the correct need statement? How can we interpret this into meaningful statement is shown here. Battery protected from accidental shorting. So there should not be any shorting for the customer. It should be protected. The battery should be protected. And this is the way of wrongly representing a need statement that is shown here. The unit contacts covered by sliding plastic door. That is not the requirement. Actually, what the customer meant was there should not be any shorting. Then specific. What is the specific requirement? Customer says he always drops it. So customer is careless. He will always drop that product. So he means the product that is being made should not fail or should not be defective when he drops it. So that is the correct need statement, that is it operates even after being dropped. The wrong statement is, or if we are mentioning it in a wrong way, unit is rugged. So this is not what the customer meant. Actually what he needs is the unit should operate, or the product should operate even after dropping. Then positive, not negative. So always positive statements should be used and not negative statements. The customer statement is, I need to work outside in the rain. So the customer usually works outside and he wants the product also to perform well outside in the rain also. So that is the correct statement. Unit operates normally in the rain. And these type of statements should not be used. Unit not disabled by rain. Product attribute should be specified in the statement. I want to recharge it with a cigarette lighter. It means battery can be charged from the cigarette lighter. And this is a wrong way of mentioning the requirement. Cigarette lighter adapter can recharge unit. That is a wrong way. That is not what the customer meant. Then while writing problem statements, avoid the usage of must. Now this is the customer statement. I want to see how much juice is left in the battery. That is, how much charge is left in the battery. So the correct statement is, unit provides indication of the battery level. And the wrong statement is, unit should provide indication of battery level. Should, must, all these words should be avoided in a problem statement. So all these are the correct methods of indicating. So all these are the correct statements of indicating the requirement, and these are the wrong methods by which we should not, or these methods or these statements should not be used for stating the needs for the product. So as I mentioned, the product is being shown here. The battery level meter is the product, and this is the customer, what the customer wants, this product. He is also using a similar product here, but he is not satisfied with the product, and these are the requirements that he has stated for a new product. So this much of things should be kept in mind while writing good need statements. So let us see how the problem statements are written. Here you can see an example. The boarding protocols used by ABC Airlines should aim to get each flight's passengers aboard the plane quickly and efficiently so that the plane can take off as soon as possible. The process of boarding should be optimized for time efficiency, but should also be straightforward enough that it can be easily understood by all passengers. So this is how the problem statement looks like. So if we are seeing in detail, let's just analyze what is the problem statement. So if such a statement is given, what is actually the problem or the requirement? The first requirement is students. So let us see the example of a student's carry bag. The student requirement is, the students need to carry a bag easily to their school or to college. So this is the statement. Students need an easy way to take their books to school. Now we need to define this problem in much more detail. We should define who are the students, whether they are school going students, whether they are in primary level, pre-primary level, or they are in 10th or 12th standard or such senior students. Then students need an easy way. Easy means, what do you mean by easy? Whether it is easy to carry, easy to hold, easy to put on the shoulders, what is meant by easy? So we should define the problem as much in detail and as much best as possible, and identify the product attributes or functions and assign weightages to these functions. So when we identify the problem statement, or when we identify the features of the problem statement, we create an objective tree. So this was the example. We are going to design a bag that students can take it easily to school. They can carry the bag, their books in that bag very easily to school. That is the problem statement. So carrying books to school, we start from here. Then we divide this into different attributes: easy to carry, safe to carry, healthy, easy to make, attractive. So these are the different attributes that can be associated with the problem statement which was told earlier. Again, we subdivide each of these attributes into sub attributes. Easy to carry means it should be having a low weight, it should be smaller in size. Safe to carry means it can be carried either by self or by others, so it should be safe to carry by self and others. It should be healthy to carry means the strain should be less, it should be non-toxic material. Easy to make, the symbol design is of simple design, so it can be easily made, and it is made by local sellers, so it is easily available. It should be attractive means the features should be attractive and attractive colors should be used. So this is known as an objective tree. So we have a problem statement and we are dividing that problem statement into categories and subcategories like this, so that we can easily identify what are the problems to be addressed or the features to be addressed. After that, we format this into, or we make it into a matrix form or a table form, like the goals that are mentioned here: easy to carry, safe to carry, healthy to carry, easy to make, attractive. And this is a one-on-one matrix or a relationship matrix, which means how each of these goals or attributes are related to one another. Either if they are related, we put a 1, if it is not related, then we put a 0. Whether the product which is easy to carry, is it safe to carry? If it is, if that property is also needed, then put a 1. If it is easy to carry, does it mean that it is easy to make? 0 means it is not related. So easy to carry does not mean that it is easy to make. 0. Easy to carry, it does not mean it is attractive. 0. So like that, we fill in the details either by 0 or 1. This X represents the same goals. Easy to carry and easy to carry, they won't be related. Safe to carry and safe to carry, they are not related. So X is put diagonally, and finally we calculate the scores for each of the goals. So here we can see that easy to carry and healthy to carry are the two major goals that must be satisfied. After that, it should be safe to carry. So like that, we put a score to each of these objectives or the goals. Then the problem statement provides necessary information for the design team to solve the problem successfully. So it is necessary to give maximum detail to the problem statement. Only then the design team can fully understand the requirements and work accordingly. Then problem analysis is done, like the First step is to analyze the design task to determine the nature of the problem statement. The nature of the problem statement means where the problem statement is applied and what all things should be kept in mind while applying the problem statement. The questions asked can be like this: why does the problem occur? When does it occur? Under what situations does it occur? How does it occur? So the problem here refers to the requirement or the need. So why does that need occur? When does it occur? What situations does the need occur? And how does the need occur? All these are the different ways of asking questions by which we can analyze the problem or the requirement. Then we do a problem clarification, that is further analysis of the problem by doing a black box modeling technique. Black box just means that there is an input and there is a processing and there is an output. Now coming to the third step, after converting the raw data into the requirements which we can understand, the third step is to organize that needs into hierarchy. So we have collected the customer needs. Now we need to prioritize which all needs need to be addressed first, or which all needs need to be taken care of first. We need to assign the priority. So these are the different tips by which we can assign the prioritization process. Perform prioritization process on a blank wall. We can write it down. We can use such posters or post-it notes. Delete redundancies means unneeded statements can be deleted. Group nodes can be created. Select labels to describe each group. So all these are different general methods or tips by which we can make a note of the hierarchy. So here is how the customer hierarchy is being listed. Now the screwdriver power is, or screwdriver design is the requirement here. Now the label or each of the requirement is being shown in the left hand side column, and here the customer priority is shown. Customer priority, either it is low, shown by a single star, or a high priority, that is a 3 star. 2 star means it is a medium priority. The unit has plenty of power to drive screws. So that is one of the requirement that is being shown here. The customer need, the unit maintains power for several hours of heavy use. That is, the unit is capable of storing the power and working for several hours. So that is not the higher priority requirement, it is the low priority. The first priority is unit should be able to drive screws into hardwood. That is the medium priority shown here. Unit makes it easy to start a screw. That is, the screwdriver unit can easily start a screw. So here the customer need mentioned is unit retains the screw before it is driven, which is a low priority, and unit can be used to create a pilot hole. So the previous example which we had seen for the automatic screwdriver, that is the example here, the exclamation mark, as I told earlier, it shows it is an additional requirement and not the main requirement. Unit feels good in user's hand. So that means the unit is comfortable when the user pushes on it. The user should be comfortable. The user should be comfortable using that product. So that is the high priority requirement. 3 stars. Unit is balanced in the user's hand. It is a low priority. So like that, each of these requirements we write down the customer need and assign the priority into low, medium and high. So first we will be addressing those needs with the high priority. We will also be checking about medium and low priority, but we won't be giving that much importance as the high priority requirement. So while identifying the customer requirements, you should keep in mind that the customer requirements will change according to the circumstances, the status of the customer, society, groups, environment, etc. So the customer needs are always changing, it is dynamic, and therefore it is very difficult to say that the customer requirement will be fixed for a long period of time. It will always keep changing. And there is a hierarchy of human needs that is represented by Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs. So according to this hierarchy or the arrangement, these are the different category of needs that a customer has. Physiological needs, safety and security needs, social needs, self-esteem and self-respect. So it is arranged as a pyramid. You don't need to go much deeper into this, but just understand that this is the hierarchy of needs. So the customer usually starts with the basic needs or physiological needs like food, water, shelter, clothing, breathing, etc. Once the people or the customers they satisfy this need, they go to the next level. So the next level would be safety and security, like health, employment, property, family, social stability, etc. Once they satisfy this need, they go to the next level, love and belonging. Then after that they go to the self-esteem, and after that the final level, that is the self-actualization. So this is the hierarchy based on which the needs are being satisfied. So only after one level is completed, the people or the customers move to the next level and so on. So people who reach this level, they are actually low in number. So it is at the highest level, so that they have achieved everything in life. That is the highest level. Next, after identifying those and assigning priorities to those requirements, establish relative importance of needs. So we may have a number of needs or number of requirements. You need to assign or you need to categorize the needs according to their relative importance. So here it is mentioned the importance is being scaled from 1 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and the scaling is mentioned here. 1 is the feature that is undesirable, that is not required in the product. 2 means feature is not important, but the customer does not mind having that feature in the product. 3 means feature is nice to have, but it is not necessary in the product. 4 means feature is highly desirable, but it is not very critical. 5, the feature is critical in the product and the customer will not consider the product without that feature. So the different attributes or the different functionalities being mentioned here. First is screwdriver maintains power for several hours of use. The importance given is 5, that is, it is the critical or the most important functionality, that the screwdriver maintains power for several hours after a single charge. So if that requirement is not met, the customer does not want that product. So we have assigned the importance as 5. Screwdriver can drive screws into the hardwood, that is relatively low importance. Then here we can see screwdriver has a pleasant sound when it is in use. That feature is not very important, but the customer does not mind having that feature. So we should be careful while analyzing all the requirements, that the main requirements earlier mentioned by the customer, which we collected as a raw data, it should be given maximum importance, and those which were suggested by the customers as additional features or suggestions, they should have a low priority. So while designing, we should not give high priority to the low importance features. We should always give more priority to the high priority features. Only then the customer will buy the product. Otherwise the customer will not be using the product, and the entire process will be going as a wastage. Finally, we need to reflect the results and processes. So reflect in the sense we should document and show the entire team what are the processes that were conducted and what are the information that was gathered and what are the results. So what are the lessons learned from the exercise? So after all these steps, what are the things which they have learned? The different topics are being mentioned here. Interaction. Whether the team has interacted with the customers in the target market. Whether we have selected the customers in the right group. Whether we have interacted with customers in the selected product, selected market, and whether they are important to the product. Latent needs means, did we capture latent needs? Latent needs means the needs which are not seen or which are hidden. Did we capture the needs which were not mentioned, not just obvious ones? It means, have we only taken care of the needs that are told by the customer and any other additional needs that were not mentioned by the customer? Follow-up. Should we conduct follow-up interviews? Once we have done interview, were we able to collect or gather as much information needed to start the design, or whether we need further information, and for that we need to collect further interview. Key customers. Which customers should we contact during the design phase? It is not necessary to contact the entire customers. Selected group of customers should be contacted while design process so that appropriate changes can be made accordingly in the design, and finally the product, when it is reaching the customer will be happy. Surprises. Surprise means, what are the surprising needs did we discover? So while gathering the information from the customer, were there any surprising needs that we discovered or we came across? Collaboration. Did we engage everyone in our organization? So was the team formed effectively, and was it a cross-functional team? Cross-functional team means the team in which there are members from every section in the organization. Improvement. How can we improve our efforts in the future? So how can we improve the process which we have conducted now? All these can be documented and this can be told in a meeting so that the improvements can be made accordingly and suggestions can be made. So according to the suggestions which are obtained, some of these processes may have to be conducted again so that we can gather and identify the customer requirements very correctly, and the resulting design will also be appropriate. So these are the different steps by which we can identify the customer requirements. Thank you.